Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another math lesson with Mr. Hopkins. Today we're going to be looking at quadratic equations and their characteristics. So let's look at the parts of a parabola. One of the first things we have is the minimum. If it opens up, then there's a minimum point. On the right side, if it opens down, then there's a maximum point. This minimum point over here is also called, well, since it's at the bottom of a graph, it's called the minimum. And obviously the vertex over here is called the maximum if it's at the top of the graph. We've already learned about the roots. The roots is where it crosses the x-axis. And something brand new today is this right here. This little dotted line. That is called the axis of symmetry. So if I was to fold the graph over that line, it would land on itself. So that's called the axis of symmetry. It makes it symmetric if I was to fold it over. Okay, let's continue. Okay, increasing. As we read graphs, let me change the color here. When we read graphs, we read just like textbooks, left to right. So it's increasing where it goes up. So let's look at these graphs. And let me make this a little bit darker. Okay, so as I read from left to right, looking at this parabola right here, it's going up from this point over. Whereas the graph on the right, it's increasing from here up to here. Okay, so it's when it goes up. Now let's change this to red and we'll discuss when it's decreasing. Still, as we read from left to right, it's where it goes down now. So this graph on the left, it's decreasing from here to here. And on the right, it's decreasing from here to here. So there's increasing and there's decreasing. So just read it from left to right, and if it's going up, it's increasing. Going down, it's decreasing. Okay, the vertex is also known as the turning point. So it's this point right here and this point right here. So it's either the minimum or the maximum. The axis of symmetry is the fold right here. So it cuts it in half. The roots are the zeros. We know that. It's where it crosses x-axis. The maximum or the minimum is either, well, the maximum is up here. The minimum is down here. Domain and range haven't changed since we learned them the first time. Domain is the x values. So it's how far left and right your graph goes. The range is all the y values. And it's how far up and down your graph goes. Oops. So there's a lot of terminology with quadratics. Let's continue. Okay, the quadratic equation is really in the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c, they're just numbers. Don't be scared of the letters. And that should be an x. So the number that leads the whole thing in front of the x squared, if that is greater than 0, meaning if it's positive, it will always open up like this. We call that concave up, and it will have a minimum point on the graph. If the number is negative, meaning if it's less than 0, then it'll be concave down, meaning opening down, and there is a maximum point. All right, let's take, oops, I went too far here. Axis of symmetry of this graph, dotted line, and it is x equals -3. So you just split it in half. On the right, it is right here. X equals 3. All right, here's some practice with all the terminology. I want to make this a little bit smaller. My pen got too fat. Okay, the vertex of this graph on A is right here. That point is 1, 2, 3, -3, 2. Sorry about that. I think I froze a little bit. The axis of symmetry is where it cuts it right down the middle. 1, 2, 3. That's x equals -3. Is it a minimum or a maximum value? It is a minimum, and that is at y equals 2. The zeros are where it crosses the x-axis. Well, it doesn't cross the x-axis, so there are none. The domain. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Domain and range is hard. How far left does this graph go? Well, as it goes up and out to the left, it's got an arrow on it, which means it goes forever. So that means it goes from -infinity and on the right, same thing happens. It goes up and out forever. It goes to +infinity. And then in front of this, we just say for all x such that that happens. That'll be the proper terminology. Now the range. The range is how low and how high it goes. We want the lowest point first. So the lowest point is 2. So this time for all y such that 2 is less than or equal to y. And then it goes to infinity. Okay, let's try it all again on the other side. Okay, the vertex. The vertex is right here. We're going to assume it's in the middle there and in the middle there. Okay, so that would be 1, 2.5, 4.5. The axis of symmetry then would be x equals 2.5. Is it a minimum or max? We know it's a maximum value, and that occurs at y equals 4.5. Excuse me. The zeros, right here, x equals 1 and x equals 4. The domain, well, the domain looks just like the one in part A that we did. It's going to go for all x such that -infinity is less than x, less than +infinity. And the range. The lowest point down here, it's got arrows on it. So that goes to -infinity. So for all y such that -infinity is less than y. And its highest point, we said was 4.5, so less than or equal to 4.5. Phew, so there's a lot of terminology for one day. If you need to review this video and this lesson, please do so. It's important to know these vocab words and the terminology. And we will continue with this lesson in the next one. Have a great day.